please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, let me know. I discovered today is International Youth Day, of which I was unaware. Freemasonry obviously has several different youth groups. The main one would be, I think, 𝓎𝓄𝓿𝓋 is the one most are familiar with. Famously, Bill Clinton was actually a 𝓎𝓿𝓋. Um, Not a Mason, as some people think, but 𝓎𝓿𝓋. Beyond that, I can't think of any other famous 𝓎𝓿𝓋 members at the moment, but 𝓎𝓿𝓋 is a Masonic youth group for young boys, ages 11 to 21. In terms of for young women, there's International Order of Rainbow as well. So youth groups are a very important part of our Masonic family. However, I wasn't going to talk about that today. I was thinking of talking about the Rosetta Stone. The reason being, Freemasonry is connected, is evolved, is a continuation of stone masonry in stone masonry in a social setting. Stone is an incredibly important part of the history of humanity. In fact, I would say in many ways, humanity can be defined based upon its relationship to and its relationship with stone. And so I thought it might be worth, hello, cheese. I thought it might be worth talking about one of the most important discoveries ever in archaeological history related to stone, or one of the most important stones ever discovered, the Rosetta Stone, which I understand is currently on display at the British Museum. It's also because this is Archaeology Month. At least in Quebec, it's Archaeology Month. So why not take a few moments to celebrate perhaps the most important stone ever discovered in history, the Rosetta Stone. And in terms of celebrating International Youth Day, my plan is to, amongst other things, my plan is to put some social media content online where we are going to be asking some questions, having some quizzes about the history of different groups, 𝓎𝓿𝓋, Rainbow, etc., etc. Well, the Rolling Stones is one of the most important bands of all time, but as you know, they are not literally stones. Although who knows, maybe they are. Maybe Paul McCartney is made of stone. The fact that Paul McCartney and what's the guitarist's name now? I can't think of his name. It's gonna drive me crazy. Hold on just one second. Keith Richards. The fact that Mick Jagger and the fact that Keith Richards are still alive. I mean, maybe they are in fact made of stone, for all we know. Hello, Yo Maple. How's it going? Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Now, as you know, Freemasonry has a really incredible history as it relates to space and space exploration. My intention was perhaps to stream the Perseid meteor shower tonight during my 1 a.m. live stream. Unfortunately, the weather says it's going to be overcast and cloudy. So I don't know if, unfortunately, I'm going to have a decent view of the meteor shower. But we'll try our best and we'll see. While the Romans, in fact, were very famous for their stone Masonic guilds, which is a really cool thing. And yeah, the Romans were absolutely incredible engineers, some of the greatest of all time. But the Romans were pretty awesome. Dad, how's it going? Love you. Thank you for being here. Don't forget, become a member on YouTube, and you can vote for where I travel to this weekend. Will it be to Utica, New York, to try and check out in person the Masonic Medical Research Institute? In preparation for our 24-hour content marathon, August 21st, or will it be to Illinois to celebrate the Masonic to celebrate Masonic Membership Visibility Day? Right now, it is tied in terms of YouTube members, 1 vote for Illinois, 1 vote for New York. And on Patreon, where you can also vote, I don't think we have any votes yet. If it is a tie, then tomorrow I'm just going to flip a coin. Yes, I heard about that. I don't know if it's going to make it here. Oh, we got another vote for Illinois. So right now, Illinois is in the lead, 2-1. So we shall see. If I do go to Illinois, what I'll do likely is try to cross into Detroit using the Gordie Howe Bridge and actually wheel across or walk across, if you will. That should be a lot of fun. But right now, the votes look Illinois is in the lead. Oh, so Dad picked you. You must be the 1 vote on Patreon. There you go. I want to leave it exclusively for Patreon members or YouTube members. So now's your chance to do one or the other. Yeah, Yo Maple, I'm hoping that too. I mean, as you guys know, the first 60 minutes, no particular talking points, just hang out and chat about whatever. Um, Kevin, any Masonic lodge should accept whether you're gay or straight, it does not make a difference. What matters in Freemasonry is are you a good man and honorable, and that's the end of it. Um, and that, you can be gay and straight, it does not matter. So, just a silly question, Kevin. Because you're just a silly person. If nobody else votes on those polls, we're going to end up with the focus being on we're going to go to Illinois, which is great. I love Illinois, don't get me wrong. It is an absolutely incredible, incredible place. Been there a lot, always love it. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Plus, it might just be really fun to, might be really, really fun to, again, the thing I'm looking forward to most, I think, is finally using the Gordie Howe Bridge, finally crossing that. It is the first time I'll ever be able to actually wheel or walk or ambulate myself across the bridge into the States. I won't require a car or a bus or a taxi or whatever. No, Mr. Inappropriate. If you think that joining is gonna help you with the ladies, you're gonna be very disappointed. Although I'd like to think the fact that we're civically minded should be considered awesome, but I don't know. Being a Freemason is like knowing you're trying to make the world a better place. Valhalla, I don't know if World War III is coming or not. My hope is that it's not, but if it is on the way, then my hope is groups like Freemasonry can help to either mitigate its effects or just get rid of it altogether and stop it from happening. The more civic groups we have in the world, the less likely conflict is. At least that's always been my experience based on my study of history. And as always, I hope that you are doing well. Please take a moment, if you're new to the stream, to hit like and hit subscribe. First 60 minutes, we just hang out. Second 60 minutes, I'm going to talk about perhaps one of the most important stones in the world, if not the most important stone in the world, the Rosetta Stone. We are going to be reading primarily from the British Museum website. And then I am going to be posting questions about it on my YouTube channel, quizzes. See how smart you guys are, how good you guys can answer. Freemasonry is the continuation of stonemasonry in a social setting. Stone and the human relationship to stone has been, without a question, perhaps one of the defining characteristics of the study of humanity. as demonstrated and cataloged by Archaeology. And it is Archaeology Month this month, at least in Canada, specifically in Quebec. So, yes, as 𝑎𝑢𝑚aple says, please consider liking and subscribing. I would be much, much obliged. And we're going to give it some time. First 60 minutes, though, we just wait, hang out, see who wants to join. It does have no toll, which makes me very happy. That's another nice thing. It'll be a lot less expensive than, believe me, my old cost a lot of money to cross. I mean, I didn't usually have to pay tolls, but usually the tolls are absorbed in the cost of a bus ticket across or a taxi fare, whatever it might be. So it'll be nice to do something a little bit different and just fun. And believe me, I'll be taking a lot of pictures, without a doubt. And I look forward to that very much. But for the time being, we're just going to wait to see who joins. We had a pretty good stream yesterday. It was very busy, very well attended, especially the 1 a.m. stream, as it normally is the case. For now, though, let's wait to see who joins. So, Valhalla, why do you say that you think that World War III is coming? Rusty Nails. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to it quite a bit. How many new petitions? Well, I'm a member of 5 Masonic lodges, so it really depends on which lodge you're referring to. I can say, on average, I would say the highest number is around 10 or 11. The lowest number is 0 in some cases. It really just depends. I don't know what that lodge is, Rusty, but I feel like you're making a joke. So no. Let's not talk about the Moose Knuckle Lodge. Why won't you answer me? Because I don't know what you're saying. Your message might have been removed by YouTube, or I might have missed it. Well, I mean, I think, so I don't know, because it's hard, because unfortunately, one of the main conspiracy theories right now about Freemasonry that exists is that Albert Pike wrote a letter claiming that World War III was coming. Albert Pike never wrote the letter. That's a myth. But a lot of people believe it to be the case. And because of that, unfortunately, we're dealing with, amongst other things, a lot of nonsense on social media. Just kind of is what it is. And no, QAnon does not rule. It's been happening everywhere, Dalton. Don't mind my asking, where are you from? North America, though, we are really, really struggling with membership across North America. In other places, it's growing, like the Philippines, South America, but it is struggling quite a bit in North America. Well, Tip, you're clearly an anti-Semite. I don't think there's any question about that. Yeah, North America, it is definitely struggling quite a bit, Dalton. I mean, I like Georgia a lot. I've never actually had the pleasure of visiting a Masonic lodge in Georgia, but I visited Georgia a few times, loved the food. Hopefully, things like Square and Compass Promotions can help turn things around. At least that's the hope. Well, I think anti-Semitism is pure evil in the same way any type of if you're anti-Muslim or anti-Christian or anti-whatever it is, it's evil. You take individuals as you find them. You don't lump entire groups of people together and then, basically put a libel on the entire group. Yes, Rusty Nails. In fact, one of the main videos on my channel is from Bogota, Colombia. I've also visited lodges in Rio de Janeiro, and both of them were absolutely incredible. I loved them both very much. They were awesome. Not recent. I mean, recently, like last year, I did. Um, Freemasonry works best in a democracy. Freemasonry helps strengthen democracy. It helps keep democracies alive. When you lose Freemasonry, very often you revert to fascism, and you revert to or dictatorships or some type of centralized authority that is against democratic ideals. Um, 2 months ago in South America, where did I go 2 months ago? I don't. Hold on, just one second. I mean, I suppose I should consider myself lucky because I know I traveled 2 months ago. I just can't remember where. Um, oh, South Africa. Not South America, South Africa. Hello, Scott. Do I think Trump is a fascist? So keep in mind, you couldn't ask me that question if we were in a Masonic lodge because there's no discussion of religion or politics in a Masonic lodge. Outside of it, I would just say I think Donald Trump is a bad person and a bad president. That's my personal opinion. Um, Whether he's a fascist or not, people always get into South Africa is not quite South America. I know what you're doing, Rusty. When you get into specific definitions of things, I'm not a big fan of that because people just argue about the definition. I'll just say he's a bad person and a bad president and leave it at that. And I think he tricked a lot of people into voting for him. J2W. Um, well, I mean, if you say the Jewish people are X or Y, that is by definition anti-Semitic, right? Because you're lumping in an entire group under one signifier. It'd be no different than if you said every Muslim is X or every Muslim is Y. It would be the same thing, right? I would still say, okay, you're I guess Islamophobic. You kind of pick your terms. Um, I would love to visit El Salvador. Like genuinely, I think visiting El Salvador would be incredible. I want to learn more about Freemasonry in South America because it's one of the places where Freemasonry is actually doing pretty decently and growing. Um, oh, my best friends are. I've always just found that really weird. By the way, solar eclipse today and Perseid meteor shower tonight. I hope to be able to film some of it during my 1 a.m. stream. The problem is, amongst other things, the problem is it's supposed to be a cloudy night, which means I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not. I'm going to be able to watch the meteor shower or not. QAnon definitely does not know the real deal. Dan, I don't know who Thumb is from Spy Kids, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Um, I was just born with this head. What can I say? I'm so handsome that if I didn't have an oddly-shaped head, I would leave no women for the rest of you. So today, by the way, I mentioned it before, is I mean it's not growing in North America, excuse me, in Canada or the US. I don't know how it's doing in Mexico. I've been to lodges in Mexico, but I don't know what the numbers are. I would say Brazil, it's growing. The Philippines, it's growing. Um, there's a lot of different factors at play. Um, Maybe I'll look it up one day. I mean, I'm not a big fan of when I was a kid. I liked kids movies. When I'm an adult, I don't. I know. I'm trying to think if there's the one kids movie I still enjoy from when I was a child to an adult would be Labyrinth with David Bowie. That was a movie I liked a lot as a kid and still like as an adult quite a bit. I'd say that's probably the exception. Or another thing I really enjoy is Are You Afraid of the Dark, the kids' TV show. Beyond that, never really. At this point, it's all scary movies for me. Practical Magic 2 is coming out. That's going to be incredible. I've talked about this plenty, Freemasonry and its connection to space in a lot of different ways, Tranquility Lodge being the prime example. So I do want to try to film some of the meteor shower if I can. I just don't know if the cloud coverage is going to allow it. But that's tonight at 1 a.m. It's going well, Waylon. Thank you for being here. By the way, you're in Illinois, if I recall correctly, right? And as you know, this Saturday is Masonic Membership Visibility Day in Illinois. So I don't know if you guys are doing anything for that. I forget what the, let me double check with the theme is. It's in Illinois. Dun, dun, dun. I'm just trying to remember what the actual theme of it was. I saw it before, but I forget what it's called. Are you doing anything for it, Waylon? Or is your lodge doing anything for it? Brotherly love equals kindness equals we care. Yes, there it is. That is the theme of Masonic Membership Visibility Day. I have a current poll taking place, Waylon. If you want to help out with it, you can become either a Patreon member, or you can become a YouTube member, and you get to vote on where I should go this weekend, Illinois or New York. If I go to Illinois, it will be in honor of Masonic Membership Visibility Day. If I go to Illinois, it will be to check out if I go to Illinois, it will be for Masonic Membership Visibility Day. If I go to New York, it will be to check out in person the Masonic Medical Research Institute. So let me know where you want me to go. You just have to become a Patreon member or a YouTube member. And you can become a Patreon member for free. Hello, Chess, RVKB. I have them everywhere. Thomas, yes, I've said it before, but I'm a Canadian first and I'm a Freemason second. So my duty to my home country supersedes my duty to anything else, including Freemasonry, which is something I'm grateful for. Because I love being a Canadian. That doesn't mean Freemasonry doesn't stop me from recognizing the fellow humanity around the world, and in my brothers in different countries, but I'm still a Canadian first. And I think Canada is the greatest country in the world, in part because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. Thank you, Stinky. What's so good about being a Canadian? Well, I mean, now you're getting into part of it is it's the place I was born and the place that I love. I'll give you an example, though. So I was born missing my legs, right? Well, in the literal sense, what now? It means you're born in Canada or a Canadian citizen, or you immigrate and become a citizen. But anyways, I was born missing my legs. And one of my earliest memories is every few months when I was a kid, when I was very young, like toddler, an infant, I'm sure, before I could remember. But at least when I was a toddler, I remember every few months my mom would pack me up into the car and she'd take me to the rehab center, it was called. And I never really knew what was happening or what was going on. I remember just really liking it because they had they had this playroom with this old, well, at the time it was a regular, but now it'd be an old television with these bunny ears that would play Sesame Street. But I remember I'd sit in the playroom and play with these blocks that I really liked. And I used to like going there to play with the blocks. But anyways, I remember I'd sit there for a minute or two or half an hour. And then my mom would pick me up and she'd bring me into this room. And she'd put me down in the middle of the room. And there'd be a circle of people around me. And again, I would usually get to take a toy in the room with me. So I would just play with the toy, whatever it was. And they'd all be talking. I wasn't really paying attention. And there was this X-ray up on this screen. And every now and then I'd look at it. I didn't know what it was. And eventually I looked up at it. And then I looked down at my legs. And I looked back up at the machine, at the X-ray. And I realized it was an X-ray of my legs. And it clicked for the first time. I remember the realization that all of this stuff was about me, which I remember thinking it must be some type of medical miracle if they're all, making such a big fuss about me. But it wasn't anything particular. It's just because I was born missing my legs, they were doing regular checkups to see if there were any problems developing, how I was developing, how my legs were growing, etc., etc. The point is, and the reason I bring that up is, to my knowledge, every single one of those meetings I went to was completely free, covered by our healthcare system. The artificial legs I got as a child was covered by the healthcare system. when I got my first car, and it was modified. If I recall correctly, most of it was covered by the healthcare system. And even recently, when I got new wheelchairs, 75% of it is covered by the system. Recently, I'm looking at being a living kidney donor. We're still going through the process. All of the testing I've got done for that, my blood work, et cetera, has all been done completely free. So the fact that we take care of each other and care about each other and support one another, I think is one of the things I love about Canada. Canada does a lot of stuff. What now? You need to calm down a little bit. Maple syrup is great as well. Also, Canada has some of the most beautiful landmarks in the world. If you want to find beautiful, examples of nature, whatever it might be, you're not going to find a much better place than Canada. We are a really incredible country that cares for one another. Not perfectly, not without its faults, but still, it's a country that's worth caring about and appreciating and loving. And if you love U.S. healthcare, that's great. I know a lot of people do. The problem is, I know a lot of people who've gotten into a lot of trouble with the U.S. healthcare system as well. So, I guess everybody has their own experiences with it. But I love Canada. And partially, love is irrational, right? I mean, I was born here. It's my home. How do we all love our homes. We all love the place we come from. At least hopefully we do. It's our nature. And I think Freemasonry at its best encourages that love and supports that love. I think that is one of the greatest strengths of it. 𝓴𝓭𝓏𓄿𝓋𓴴 says, what now? Well, there you go. 𝓴𝓭𝓏𝓄𝓿𝓃 indeed. Thank you for being here, by the way. What now? I hope that you are doing well. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. I've never heard about that PERMA framework before. I'm not always positive, but I try my best. I have never been to Finland, and I know nothing about Freemasonry in Finland. I don't even know if there's Masonic lodges in Finland. I believe there are, but I couldn't confirm. I could not confirm it. I could look into it. It'd be interesting to learn about. It'd be fun to one day maybe visit Finland. I've been really lucky all the different places I've visited thus far, and I'm grateful for it. CG says 3 5s. Those are important Masonic numbers. They're also important just life numbers or world numbers. I mean, 7 especially. There's 7 deadly sins. There's 7 liberal arts and sciences. There's 7 muses. 7 is famously a prime number. There's 5 orders of architecture, etc., etc. That is very sad because 𝓴𝓏𝓿𝓪 is an incredible talent and without question, one of the greatest of all times. So without a doubt, I think everybody should love, should be grateful to 𝓴𝓏𝓿𝓪 for all that he did. Being a professional wrestler is not easy. And so nothing but respect to him and nothing but respect for him. Yo, Maple, if you had to pick one place out of those two, Sweden and Finland, what would it be? Good morning, 𝓃𝓃𝓄�📿. Thank you for being here. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Actually, let me make this a poll question, just to say something. Do you plan to watch the meteor shower tune? That is true. They are all primes. But for some reason, I remember reading a story or an article. I forget where it was, but apparently 7 is like the most popular prime number. I don't know why, but I mean, I'd have to double check that. I guess don't quote me on it, but I feel like I read that somewhere. That 7 is the most popular prime number. My favorite Brock Lesnar matches. Again, we're just hanging out for now. Oh my gosh. Probably his match with CM Punk at SummerSlam. I forget when. Was really, really great. So I'd say that one's up there without a doubt. Um, oh my gosh, his match with The Undertaker where he broke the streak. I think one of the few who's actually really supportive of Undertaker breaking the streak. Well, yes, I mean, the 357 number also refers to the winding stairs of King. Well, you very often see one of the cool things you very often see in many Masonic lodges is actually not winding stairs, but straight staircases where it's 3 steps, then 5 steps, then 7 steps. And each one is listed with a different Masonic attribute. So wisdom, strength, and beauty, the 5 architectural orders, Ionic, Corinthian, Doric, Tuscan, Ionic. Wait, did I say that? Ionic, Doric, Corinthian, Tuscan, Composite, and then the 7 liberal arts and sciences. They have that, for example, in the Santa Monica Masonic building, which I thought was really cool when I visited it. Yes, you're referring to King Solomon's Temple, CG. I have a big forehead because I'm so handsome. So yeah, Rondo. So maybe that's the same story I read. But anyways, I remember reading that people loved the number 7. Apparently, the most common number, if you ask people to pick a random number between 7 and, between 1 and 100, apparently the most common number is like 37, if I recall correctly. So that's kind of interesting. Um, so who's doing the concert? Chicago, Illinois? Well, I mean, as someone who loves Friday the 13th, I would agree with you on that one, Lex Animata. 8 votes. Do you plan to watch the meteor shower? 75% are saying yes. I'm glad. I think taking the time to do things like watching the meteor shower is actually really, really important, and matters quite a bit. You know, we should never lose our sense of wonder and amazement at the universe. Um, Emerson, thank you. Yes, honestly, if you want to be, confirm that Freemasons aren't controlling the secrets of the universe, just get to know us. Usually, we can't even agree on what to have for dinner. So if you think we're controlling the universe, you are going to be very disappointed. Thank you, CG. By the way, CG, if you want to vote on where I should go this weekend, take a few moments to um, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, but also become a member either on Patreon or YouTube and vote for where I should travel this weekend. Unfortunately, it's very cloudy here as well, so I've not seen the eclipse yet. I was going to stream the eclipse tonight. At least that was my hope. The problem is it's supposed to be very cloudy tonight, so I may not be able to. But we're going to keep my fingers crossed and see what we can do. AK, what I am is handsome. That's all that matters. Yes, as Yo Maple points out. By the way, Yo Maple, I'm very much hoping and looking forward to you helping me out next week on August 20th, because I'm definitely going to need the help when it comes to the 24-hour stream, and I'm going to need to deploy my mods. So Dad misses it as well. That's okay. We know it's happening. Even if we can't see it, we know it's happening, and that's important because at least other people get to enjoy it. We got some chilies as well. I got a big nose as I've grown to accept it. I'm so handsome that if I didn't have my big nose, I would not leave any women for the rest of you. And if you can't, don't worry about it. I got other people and it's going to be fine. You got to obviously, you're not getting paid to be here. So go to work, deal with the school, deal with what you have to deal with first and foremost. And thank you for the star as well. 16 votes. Do you plan to watch the meteor shower tonight? Yes is at 69%. No is at 31%. Still glad to see more yeses than nos. We are going to keep hanging out, wait to see who jumps on. As always, any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. We're just hanging out, chatting, waiting to see who wants to join. That is true. It'll be shown on TV, and if you can't see it any other way, watching it on TV, at least that encourages showing of, good things, right? One of the things you always want to keep in mind is your algorithm. You can have a lot of say in what gets shown and what gets, like, the action of media. If you are concerned about a lot of negative stuff on social media, just click on positive things. Eventually, the algorithm will pick it up and just show you the things you want to see, not the negative things. And every now and then it's okay to look at something you might disagree with, but if you think there's too much politics and too much divisiveness on X, just click on links to movies and your favorite television shows and things you enjoy. And that's kind of the best approach, at least in my experience. I mean, if you go to my X feed, it's nothing but my favorite movies, scary movies, writing I like, and Freemasonry. I don't know who Anthony is. Be careful mentioning people's names and stuff on stream, at least not full names. But I hope he's doing better. I hope he gets better. Who is Lucid Concepts? Oh, Lucid Concepts. There he is. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Thank you for being here. I'm doing well. Had a good stream yesterday. It was awesome. It was fun. And it's great to be here today. Awesome. It's great to see you both here. Horizontal Reigns. I don't think Maple did that. Maybe you did that, Horizontal Reigns, and maybe you're blaming, maybe you did that, and maybe you're blaming other people on YouTube. Although in fairness, we've all at some point or another clogged a toilet. I mean, the real walk of shame is returning from the store with a plunger that you've just bought, because people know why you need it. So, of course, making sure that you have plungers at your Masonic Lodge building is important as well. On a side note, make sure you have proper equipment. Because sometimes that spicy bean chili just hits you at the worst time. Well, so now Yo Maple is asking for counsel. Now Yo Maple is asking for his lawyer. Well, there you go. Now that makes me think maybe you did it, Yo Maple. Now I'm concerned that you might have actually clogged the toilet. Well, in that case, I would suggest nobody talk about it here, because anything you say can be brought up in a court in a civil proceeding. So just keep that in mind. I just discovered this quote from, it was, I guess, written by Alberto Romero on Substack, Panagram Partnership. It's about sending a message. It was posted by a friend of mine, Most Worshipful Brother Cameron Bailey. He is a past Grand Master out of Seattle, out of Washington State, excuse me. And he highlighted this quote, and I thought it's worth sharing. I may write about it or even talk about it on another stream, but I want to share it now. There's nothing worse in modern society, modern understood as the kind that has more or less figured out things for harmonic coexistence, than someone who is not civic. Someone who, by virtue of living in a safe and stable society he didn't build, is willing to be selfish in exchange for a collective sacrifice. I think one of the greatest dangers we have right now in 2026 is people refusing to be civic. And that refusal to be civic can mean a lot of different things, but it can mean, for example, refusing to visit your Masonic lodges or be a part of Freemasonry or be a part of the Elks or be a part of the Muse. Civic engagement is absolutely vitally important and necessary. And so I do think the fact that a past Grand Master and a Mason wrote that, I think is really important because it's absolutely the case, in my opinion, that we are dealing with a lack of civic engagement, and that is absolutely crushing our societies. It makes it very hard to imagine how we will in society find success if no one's willing to be civic, if no one is willing to, for lack of a better term, sacrifice for the collective whole, however that may be. Afternoon, Daniel. Thank you for being here. I can't dance with anybody, the devil or otherwise. So I'm going to read that quote one more time. Let's see if I can find it again. There's nothing worse in modern society, modern understood as the kind that has more or less figured things out for harmonic coexistence, than someone who is not civic. Someone who, by virtue of living in a safe and stable society he didn't build, is willing to be selfish in exchange for a collective sacrifice. Daniel, how's it going? Thank you for being here. Please don't forget, become a YouTube member or become a Patreon member. That way, you can vote on where I should go this weekend. Right now, it's 2 votes for Illinois, 1 vote for New York. New York. I can't do the New York accent. Whenever I think of the New York, New Jersey accent, I always think of the word purple, and I think poiple. There's a song I used to know, like a kid's camp song, and they would always pronounce the word purple, poiple. Daniel, how's it going? Thank you for being here. Forget about it. Well, CJ, if you want me to go to New York, you got to vote. And the way to vote is by becoming a Patreon member or becoming a Patreon member or becoming a YouTube member. Because the voting closes Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And then what I'll do is I'll flip a coin. Hello, my fellow Mason. Hello, 𝓴𝑡ℎ9th. How's it going? Thank you for being here. I'm doing well. I have not reached out to the Chinese Lodge. So I tried to become a Patreon member and it didn't work, or tried to become a YouTube member. Because Patreon member, you can become one for free. YouTube, you do have to pay for it. I'm not sure why it didn't work for you. I was able to join Patreon relatively easily, even before I set up the membership. Maybe, I mean, what you can do is become a YouTube member and then cancel as well. So you basically just pay for the 1 month. Which state? I'm not in any state. I'm in Canada. Born and raised in Winnipeg. Currently live in Windsor, Ontario. I've said it before, Canada is the greatest country in the world, in part because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. But I love being Canadian. But because I live in Windsor, hold on just 1 sec. I'll be back in a moment. I can tell you this, I am very excited and very hopeful that very soon this muggy weather is going to go away, because it's still super warm, so I turn on my air conditioner. I have no idea what African military recruitment means. Everyone is doing well. Witch hunter? Daniel, so did you get charged for any money? Because I don't recall seeing you get charged, Daniel. If you did, I can try to do a refund if you're not getting any of the benefits of being a patron. I'll have to speak in Mandarin. So long as you didn't get charged anything, Um, okay, well, then I would recommend, Daniel, if you want to try it and you don't mind spending a couple bucks, become a YouTube member. That's relatively easy. There's a button to join. And then just cancel your membership. And that way you can still vote in the poll. You just have to go to the post page. Or join Patreon for free. Like I said, because you can get a free membership, you shouldn't have to give your credit card info. So I'm not sure why it wasn't working, but you know. I don't drink and I don't smoke. My drug of choice is caffeine. And I'm always really careful to say that because people need to remember caffeine is a drug, as are prescription medications. Now, I'm a firm believer you take your medication as prescribed, and you should not be afraid of prescription medications, but you should also be cautious and take them on advice of the doctors and your doctors. Right? I'm not anti-medication or pro-medication. I'm take your medication as prescribed. As prescribed. And if you're ever concerned or worried about any medication, talk to your doctor. But I think one of the biggest dangers we have is very often people have a very strict definition of what is and isn't a drug, right? So they'll say, they'll say something to the effect of like, I can't have a drug problem because I don't do anything illegal. But alcohol is a drug and can still cause lots of problems. Or they'll say something to the effect of, I'm trying to think of what else. They'll say something to the effect of like, I don't have a drug problem. All I take is over-the-counter medications that doesn't even require a prescription. And it's like, yeah, that's great, but you still, over-the-counter can still be dangerous. Or they'll say, I can't have a drug problem, it's just caffeine. Caffeine can become a problem. You always want to be careful, pay attention to what's going on, and if you have any concerns, talk to your doctor immediately. And again, I'm a big believer in medications and vaccinations. I think that is an important part of the overall health strategy, so long as you're regularly checking in and talking to your doctor if you have any concerns. No, I don't think that's the case at all, cats. There are some, I've known Masons who are addicts. I've known Masons and non-Masons who are addicts. So that sounds insane to me. Now, I think that Freemasonry can, if you follow the ethics of it, help people avoid addiction or find recovery, because you are not able to isolate yourself, which is a very, wonderful thing. But I still think overall, Freemasonry, being a Freemason does not guarantee you won't develop problems in your life, and that could include very well problems related to, unfortunately, addiction. I've known Masons who struggle with addiction. Nothing's wrong with tea. That's probably one of the healthiest things you can have, Dad. So that's very true. But even me, right? I used to say I don't do drugs. I don't do substances. Because I've never had a drink. I don't, do any, never smoked a joint, never done any substances that are illicit. But then I realized I'm not really being honest because I do have a lot of caffeine, probably more than is healthy. And I do take prescription medications. I take them as prescribed, but those are still substances. And saying I've never done anything, I think that strikes me as hubris, where that's a way to get arrogant and not pay attention. The crypto, I know very little about the Royal Order of Jesters. I'm not even sure 𝑓𝑀 that they exist in Ontario. They are, if I recall correctly, an invite order that's connected to the shrine. I believe it was in New York they famously got into legal trouble, and to my understanding, if they were committing crimes, they should go to jail. I think they were bringing in strippers to their parties, if I recall it correctly. Which, if you're ordering them from across state lines, I think that's a felony. It's not something I know much about. Being a Freemason doesn't mean you're perfect. What it does mean is if you mess up, other Masons should A, contact the police and hold you to account, and B, should remove you from the craft. And to my knowledge, everybody who was found guilty of those crimes in New York, I think was sent to jail, as they should be. I thought it was strippers. I don't know. Again, I don't know if the Royal Order of Jesters even exists in Ontario. Let me see. I'm Googling Royal Order of Jesters legal trouble. So this is from FBI. Federal investigations revealed that certain local chapters, most notably in Buffalo, New York, frequently hired and transported prostitutes and strippers for annual conventions and private parties. Former New York judge and jester member Ronald H. Tills was sentenced to a year and a half in federal prison for transporting prostitutes across state lines in an RV, with some recruited women having appeared as defendants in his courtroom. Well, I'm glad he went to jail. He should have gone to jail. And unfortunately, as much as I'd like to say that every Freemason does the right thing, they don't always do it. And as someone who's messed up a lot, I can confirm human beings we are. But if you're committing crimes, you should go to jail. Freemasons should not, Freemasons should not be, the idea that no Freemason has ever committed a crime or done anything wrong is just not the case. No, you cannot, Luke. My day is going well, Brittany. Where am I from? Carrie, I am from Canada. Born and raised in Winnipeg, currently live in Windsor, Ontario. Though also keep in mind the Royal Order of Jesters is an independent body of Freemasons. So it's not even an independent body of, it's an independent body of the Shrine. The Shrine is the independent body of the Masons. So, like everything, and also, he was sentenced to a year and a half in jail, as he should be. Once he is released, he can reapply to be a Freemason, and the lodge will have to decide whether he can come back or not, I suppose. He should have been evicted from the craft. I'm assuming he was, but I don't know for sure. I mean, I agree the amount of good that is achieved, and I'll always try my best to find that balance, right? Of, look, I've messed up a lot. I've done things I regret. I've made mistakes. In some cases, I don't even view them as mistakes, but I know other people would view them as mistakes. I've made jokes that got me in trouble at workplaces. I've done all sorts of things that I look back on with either regret or not regret, but I know others would view them that way. So my view on it is he was found guilty. He goes to jail. Once he's out, if there's no conditions on him, then the lodge can decide how they want to treat him. The question comes down to, conditions, things of that nature. I'm a member of Scottish Rite. I'm a member of Brock. I'm not a member of the 32nd. I'm up to the 18th degree. I'm a member of the 18th degree Scottish Rite. Which is 𝓴. I never bothered consistory, at least not yet. I may at some point go up to the top of Scottish Rite if I want to use that term, but I'm not a big fan of it. Yeah, Masons accept Muslims and Indian and everybody else. One of the greatest things about Freemasonry is it welcomes men of all different faiths, backgrounds, religions, ethnicities, whatever it might be. I think that's one of the best things about Freemasonry. Is the fact that it welcomes men of all different faiths and backgrounds. Yeah, you're right, Yo Maple. And again, I wouldn't even define everything in terms of like unsavory. I would just say within every organization, there's people who mess up. Sometimes they mess up because they are legitimately unsavory. Sometimes they mess up because we're weak. What we need to do is, first of all, make sure we are always in compliance with the laws and conditions, things of that nature. If the court puts down a condition, whatever it may be. We need to always be careful about that and make sure we're compliant with that, and advise the police if we know of anything. So light channel, that depends on how you define atheists, right? The term supreme being, in my experience, is so broadly defined that, like, my supreme being is the rational nature of the universe as expressed through science and expressed through geometry. I think a lot of people would consider me to be an atheist, but I was still accepted into the lodge. If you are the type of person whose answer to the question, do you believe in a supreme being, would start and end at no, and there be nothing else, then that's a little bit different, and then you would not be able to join your typical Masonic body. Although there are what is known as liberal orders of Freemasons, and they actually do allow atheists to join. That's primarily in France, although there's also a chapter in the Philippines. I mean, I would join the 𝓴𝓂𓅱 at some point. I'm very busy, so the reason I didn't join it at this point is I want my focus to start and end with Craft Lodge, because that is the foundation. That's the most important part of Freemasonry. That's the part from which Freemasonry rests. So that's what I want to join. So cats, most Masons are whatever is represented in their community. If you live in a community where the majority of membership is Christian, most of your members will be Christian. If you live in a community where the majority of your membership is Muslim, most of your membership will be Muslim, right? Worldwide, I mean, I would say the largest percentage of Masons are probably Christian, and then I would say the second highest would probably be Muslim, to be honest, based on my experiences. Why? I don't know what you mean, Andrea. Do you mean why are they not accepted? Like if someone says they are an atheist, so they would not be able to join for two reasons. First, because it's tradition, and Freemasonry loves tradition. But second, and more importantly, when you join Freemasonry, you take an obligation. If you do not take an obligation to a being outside of yourself, the concern is you're less likely to, have a sting to your conscience if you disobey your obligation. I'm not going to name Masons, but go to Dearborn Lodge. There's plenty of Muslim Masons there. Morocco as well. That's a good way to put it. I mean, it's the supreme being, not a belief system. The belief system is individual, and the supreme being is individual as well, right? The supreme being is individual as well. You can, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, rational nature of the universe, whatever it might be. Cloud-like, please hit like and subscribe. I would agree with that as a general rule. I think thinking with rationality is incredibly important. So yeah, I would support that. I can't help you move up with Masonry. You need to move up yourself. If you want to move up in Freemasonry, it's up to you to do so. So just put in the time, put in the work, show up to lodge regularly, learn your ritual, and you'll move up. I mean, although the idea of moving up is questionable in and of itself, to be honest. I have met flat earth Masons. That makes me sad. If you're a Mason and you believe the earth is flat, you are messing up, because that is not a rational, logical opinion to have. The earth is definitely round, spherical, in fact. I mean, if that's what you believe, the light channel, and you said that at your meeting, I would welcome you into lodge without issue. What is a Mason? A Mason is a member of a Masonic lodge or a club that has been around for over 300 years. Think of it like a club. At least that's what, when I talk about Masonry, that's what I'm talking about. There's also stonemasons who are, they're operative Masons. They're professionals. They work with stone and they shape stone. But Freemasonry or Masons are speculative. I'm not glad when someone says they don't believe in a supreme being. I mean, I'm not happy or unhappy. It's their choice to believe whatever they want to believe. Mayo, I have no idea. But I assume if ghosts exist, they're not attached to an ethereal plane, which means they will continue to exist, I suppose, just floating in the universe. Cloud, I'm glad you found something new. I hope you enjoy it. If you like the channel, like, subscribe, super chat, Patreon, etc., etc. I don't try to convert anyone. I am not interested in conversion, period. No conversion. That's not what I want to do. I don't care if you're upper echelon or lower echelon. If you're interested in Freemasonry, join Freemasonry. If you're not, then don't. Both of which is perfectly fine. Well, I mean, that's the idea of if everyone is your friend, no one is your friend, right? Which is obvious. If everyone is your friend, then no one is your friend. But that doesn't mean that those boundaries relate to disrespect or anything to that extent, right? So I don't believe in ghosts anyways. I don't believe in supernatural. Thank you for being here nonetheless. I do not know what the 𝓴 group is. I've never heard of this 𝓴 group before. Not experienced what, Andrea? No, because Freemasonry is for adults. We already have, youth groups. We have 𝓎𝓭𝓅𝓋𝓴 and we have Rainbow and even Job's Daughters, and they are welcome to join those. But Freemasonry is for adults. Some organizations are for adults, some are for kids. I've never experienced ghosts, and I've actually done a lot of stuff with ghosts. When I say with ghosts, paranormal investigations. We've had 2 paranormal investigations at the Windsor Masonic Temple, which was a blast. We also had a couple at Johnstown, which I visited. I've never seen anything that indicates to me ghosts are real. It's interesting, and it's cool, and it's fun to see, but it's not, I don't buy that it's quote-unquote real. I don't want to fight against anybody. I do not know what it means to be a left-hand path follower. Left hand or right hand. I just want to try to make people's lives better and make the community better. I don't think you have cats. I suspect it was light flashes or something to that extent. Very sorry to disappoint. Well, I mean, many lodges claim it, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big believer in that type of stuff because without question, without a doubt, having, for example, Masonic lodges have paranormal investigations, ghost tours, things like that. It helps a lot. It's really cool. It brings people in. They want to take tours. It helps promote the building. It can sometimes be used even in historical and heritage designations. So I love it in that sense, but I don't think it's real. What is the dark side, Austin, of which you refer? Because in my experience, no, I have not. Well, I mean, our Masonic buildings, because they're old, people love that stuff, right? People love talking about how old our buildings are, which is really cool. And yeah, there's a lot of history there, and that lends itself to people believing that there is ghosts and spirits, and that stuff is fun, but I don't believe it literally. I don't know anything about GTA 6, so very sorry to disappoint. Welcome from Indonesia, Nando. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for being here. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. It depends, DGAF, on a lot of different factors. As a general rule, it's not yes or no. It depends on the circumstances. So what I always say is, if you committed a crime and if you have a felony, the most important thing is that you take the time to talk to the Masonic Lodge about what happened, about how you've tried to change things, about steps you've taken to, make amends, time you served in jail, counseling, etc., etc., and then see what the lodge says. Let the lodge decide for itself, right? Um, it also depends on the significant nature of the crime, how significant it was, whatever it might be. All that stuff matters a lot. Well, more than one people can have a hallucination. There's such a thing as mass delusions as well. I don't believe that. Light channel, I think religion can act as kind of a mind control if you're not careful, but I don't believe it is inherently mind control. I think it depends on the individual and how they act and how they treat these things. Um, are Freemasons worried about its image in common public? I mean, I'm worried about Freemasons' image in public. One of the things I try to do as much as I can is act in a manner that is like I try to act in a way that will reflect well on our Masonic lodges and reflect well on Freemasonry, because that's all I can do. But certainly, the extent to which our Masonic buildings and our Freemasonry is reflected in the public is going to affect things like membership, attendance, visitation, all that good jazz, right? Um, Obesity can be an epidemic. DUI is a felony, I believe, yes. Uh, I forget what the limit is, but even if it wasn't, you shouldn't do it. Obviously, you're putting yourself at risk and others at risk, not just of legal consequences, but of harming people. Do I believe in? I mean, I think religion is a set of beliefs meant to bridge a gap between belief in the divine with spiritual practices here on earth that express that belief. Um, 40 votes, 55-45, dropping down quite a bit in terms of whether people um, plan to watch the shower tonight or not. Yes, 55%, no, 45%. That is the one way to eat hot dogs, for the record. Um, if you're eating hot dogs with ketchup, you're making a terrible decision. Um, do not put ketchup on your hot dogs. Who knows, 𝑓🂀🅪📏? Hot dogs are not evil, but eating hot dogs with ketchup is evil, and I'm proud to say such a thing. All right, guys, I need to run to the washroom. I'll be back in a moment, and then we're going to talk about the Rosetta Stone. Honestly, mayo, that's better than eating them with ketchup. And we're going to talk about the Rosetta Stone. Why? Because it is perhaps the most important stone in the history of archaeology. It is National Archaeology Month, or at least Archaeology Month in Quebec. And Freemasonry is the continuation of stonemasonry in a social setting. Stonemasonry is incredibly important. I do not know what the Philosopher's Stone is. Austin, do you mean like you cut up hot dogs and mac and cheese? Because many people do that, and I think that is perfectly fine. Cats, you're going to find out what the Rosetta Stone is in 2 minutes. And I'm back. Okay. Who is Cats? Oh, there he is. Sorry. Cat's the ninth. Okay. Hummus on hot dogs? I would not complain about that. So Rosetta Stone, no. Rosetta Stone. So, let's go through this now. Now, the reason is, I said before, Freemasonry, right? The term masonry. Freemasonry evolved from stone Masonic guilds in the Middle Ages. Stone Masonic guilds were guilds of workmen or tradesmen who built things out of stone or who shaped stone for human usage, whether that usage be convenience, shelter, tools, religious, or the transferring and transformation of information from one generation to the next. It is also this month in Quebec. It is Archaeology Month. In many ways, I think you could argue that archaeology is simply the documentation and the study of humanity's relationship with stone. Starting 3.5 million years ago, if I recall correctly, 3.5 million years, with our human ancestors creating stone tools in Africa, through to Göbekli Tepe, through to Stonehenge, through to the pyramids, through to the Roman aqueducts and the Roman sewers and the Roman, Colosseums and the Greeks, through to the Middle Ages, through to stone farmhouses and settlements in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, through even to today. Since all of that time, stone has been an integral and perhaps the most integral relationship humanity has had. It's been used for our convenience and in fact to kickstart our evolution. It was the creation of stone tools that allowed humanity to increase our diet, to get more protein. Basically, the tools were used to open up shells of shellfish, get more meat off the bone, improving our diet, allowing us to survive. It was stone that allowed us to create the first permanent shelters and settlements that allowed us to encourage and engage in agriculture and just culture in general. It was stone that allowed us to store food over long periods of time, grains, rice, things like that, right under stone, in stone structures that would stand up to the elements. It was stone that allowed us to express our religious beliefs and religious belief, right? Through cathedrals and other religious documents and other religious structures. It was stone that people used to create tools, to create toys, to create religious idols. It was stone that allowed people to create walls and fortification and protect themselves from invaders, protect their families, protect their friends. And most importantly, and another really cool point, it was stone that allowed humanity to express and share knowledge and wisdom from generation to generation, and to record and share the same. Now, obviously, you could record and share knowledge and wisdom in a variety of ways. You could do so verbally, right? You could speak to other people and share that knowledge and share that wisdom. The problem is that is not going to last for a very long time, and it's like the game of telephone. I tell 𝑎 something verbally, 𝑎 tells Cats the ninth something verbally. Eventually, from the original statement to present, it's going to change, right? You're not going to get the same information shared because people add things, interpret things, modify how things are said, modify the way things are said, the emphasis placed. So while you can share information verbally, it's very hard to share information verbally from generation to generation, going back several thousand years, without significant concerns as to how the story may have changed. You can share information by writing it down on papyrus, on paper, but again, it's not going to last a very long time, which means it must constantly be recopied onto newer and newer pieces of paper. Because again, if you don't recopy it, the paper itself will disintegrate, it will be impacted by weather, by rodents, whatever it might be. And again, errors are going to pile up over time. Every single time you record and then re-record and then re-record something, human error starts to creep in. Maybe you can't completely read what's on the paper, the ink is smudged, whatever it might be. And even though there has been incredible work done to preserve manuscripts over centuries by recording and re-recording and re-recording it on newer and newer and newer pieces of paper, it's still, at the end of the day, human error is a real issue and a real concern, and also the ability to preserve it, right? It takes a lot of time and effort to preserve paper, believe me. Or one other way that was done historically was through clay tablets, right? Not right now, cats, we're talking about the Rosetta Stone. People would take a clay tablet and carve into the clay what they wanted to say, their writings, and then seal it, close it, and send it somewhere else. Again, clay does not last forever. It is subject to being lost, destroyed, you get water on it, whatever it might be, right? That was also a way that, again, in theory, works well, maybe for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, but that information is at risk of being lost. The clay dries out, the clay crumbles, it gets lost, whatever it might be. Now, in modern times, obviously, you can do so through YouTube, audio, visual, whatever it might be, right? All of that type of stuff, it's absolutely possible to share information that did not exist 3,000 years ago, 300 years ago. So that leaves you with the one other option that you had. If you wanted to share information from a generation to generation to generation, and you wanted that information to last thousands and thousands of years, if not for eternity, you had to carve it into stone. That was the most fail-safe method to get information across long distances of time and not worry about it being varied or being altered by human error, human interpretation, whatever it might be. 𝑓🡪, written in stone. There's a reason we have that expression, written in stone. And as I was talking, I just realized to myself, look at the 10 Commandments. If I recall correctly, those were written in stone. And there was no doubt a reason for it, right? The perhaps most famous and most important stone in archaeology, in the history of archaeological discovery, I would say is the Rosetta Stone, which to my understanding is currently on display at the British Museum. I have right now britishmuseum.org up, and I have a blog, everything you ever want to know about the Rosetta Stone. I will be sharing this on social media. This was published July 2017, last updated July 2026. You've probably heard of the Rosetta Stone. It's one of the most famous objects in the British Museum. But what actually is it? The Rosetta Stone is a broken part of a bigger stone slab known as a stela. That's the term for the stone slab, or a stone slab. It has an official message called a decree carved into it in 3 different types of writing. Did I say written by stone? I meant written in stone. Yes, something's written in stone, it means it's important. Or written, or let's say transmitted by stone. It was an important clue that helped experts learn to read Egyptian hieroglyphs, a writing system that used pictures as signs. By the way, Egyptian symbolism is very important within Freemasonry. So that's another connection here. How old is the Rosetta Stone? The inscriptions on the Rosetta Stone were carved in 196 BC, making it over 2,200 years old. The date marks the first anniversary of the coronation of the young ancient Egyptian king Ptolemy V, who reigned from 204 to 181 BC, so about 80 years before Julius Caesar was born. The text on the stone is very similar to wording first used in decrees about 100 years earlier in the 3rd century BC. The Rosetta Stone is the name given to the first stela, the first stone tablet, to be discovered with these inscriptions on it. But there are 3 almost exact copies of the Ptolemy V decree that are currently known about, and a number of very similar decrees from the reigns of Kings Ptolemy III, the IV, and the VI. To date, 29 of these decrees on stones have been discovered across Egypt, starting with the Rosetta Stone in 1799. The majority of them, 22, remain in Egypt. Some of these stela have helped scholars to understand the full hieroglyphical text, which is only partially preserved on the Rosetta Stone. The writing on the Rosetta Stone is an official decree about Ptolemy V. The decree was copied onto 3 large stone slabs called stelae, which were placed in every temple in Egypt. The message is important because it says that the priests of a temple in Memphis in Egypt confirmed Ptolemy V's status as divine ruler, despite being Macedonian and not Egyptian. But the most important thing about the Rosetta Stone is that the decree is inscribed 3 times, with 3 different forms of writing, which finally allowed scholars to translate Egyptian hieroglyphs. The decree on the Rosetta Stone is written in 2 forms of Egyptian script: hieroglyphs, the sacred symbols suitable for a priestly decree, and demotic, the cursive Egyptian writing used for daily purposes, meaning language of the people. The decree is also written in ancient Greek, the language of the Greco-Macedonian rulers of Egypt, who were installed following Alexander the Great's conquest. Ptolemy, famously the name of Alexander the Great's general. The Rosetta Stone was found broken and incomplete. It features 14 lines of hieroglyphic script. I can talk. There are 14 lines of hieroglyphic script, 32 lines in demotic script, and 54 lines in ancient Greek. The importance of this to Egyptology is immense. When it was discovered, nobody knew how to read ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Because the inscriptions say the same thing in 3 different scripts, and scholars could still read ancient Greek, the Rosetta Stone became a valuable key in deciphering the hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone gets its name from the place where it's believed to have been discovered by soldiers in Napoleon Bonaparte's army. Rashid, a port city in the Nile Delta, was known by the French as Rosetta. Napoleon campaigned in Egypt from 1798 to 1801 with the intention of donating the East Mediterranean and threatening the British hold on India. Although accounts of the stone's discovery in July 1799 are now rather vague, the story most generally accepted is that it was found by accident by soldiers on July 15, 1799, while digging the foundations of an addition to a fort near Rashid, Rosetta. It had apparently been built into a very old wall. The officer in charge, Pierre Francois, realized the importance of the discovery. Soon after the end of the 4th century, there is a meteor shower, Austin, tonight. Soon after the end of the 4th century AD, when hieroglyphs had gone out of use, the knowledge of how to read and write them disappeared. In the early years of the 19th century, scholars were able to use the Greek inscriptions on the stone as the key to decipher them. Thomas Young, an English physicist, was one of the first to show that some of the hieroglyphs on the Rosetta Stone wrote the sounds of a royal name, that of Ptolemy. The French scholar Jean-François Champollion then realized that hieroglyphics recorded the sound of the Egyptian language. This laid the foundations of our knowledge of ancient Egyptian language and culture. Champollion made a crucial step in understanding ancient Egyptian writing when he identified the hieroglyphs that were used to write the names of non-Egyptian rulers. He announced his discovery, which had been based on an analysis of the Rosetta Stone and other texts, in a paper at the Académie d'Inscriptions et Belles-Lettres at Paris, Friday, September 27, 1822. The audience included his English rival Thomas Young, who was also trying to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs. Champollion inscribed this copy of this published paper with alphabetic hieroglyphs, meaning à mon ami Dubois, to my friend Dubois. Champollion then made a second crucial breakthrough, realizing that the alphabetic signs were used not only for foreign names, but also for Egyptian names. Together with his knowledge of the Coptic language, which derived from ancient Egyptian, this allowed him to begin reading hieroglyphic inscriptions fully. It's a really cool picture here of it, by the way. What does the inscription actually say? The inscription on the Rosetta Stone is a decree passed by a council of priests. It is one of a series that affirm the royal cult of the 13-year-old Ptolemy V on the first anniversary of his coronation. According to the inscription on the stone, a copy of the declaration was to be placed in every sizable temple across Egypt. Whether this happened is unknown, but copies of the same bilingual three-script decree have now been found and can be seen in numerous other museums. The Rosetta Stone is therefore one of the many mass-produced stelae designed to widely disseminate an agreement issued by a council of priests in 196 BC. In fact, the text on the stone is a partial copy of a prototype that was composed about a century earlier in the 3rd century BC. So in some passages, only the dates and names were changed. Yet despite its formulaic nature, the decree also recounts real events from the reign of Ptolemy V, including the turmoil of the Great Rebellion, a sweeping Egyptian uprising that challenged Ptolemaic rule for nearly 2 decades. How did the object come to the British Museum? On Napoleon's defeat? That is true, Zeleos, but in some ways we do. I think you could argue memes are becoming the worldwide language. On Napoleon's defeat, the stone became property of the British under the terms of the Treaty of Alexandria, along with other antiquities that the French had found. The stone was shipped to England and arrived in Portsmouth 1802, presented to the British Museum by George III in July of that year. George III, who may have been a Freemason or may not have been. It's been debated back and forth. The Rosetta Stone and other sculptures were placed in temporary structures in the museum grounds because the floors were not strong enough to bear their weight. After a plea to Parliament for funds, the trustees began building a new gallery to house these acquisitions. The Rosetta Stone has been on display in the British Museum since 1802, with only one break. Towards the end of the First World War in 1917, when the museum was concerned about heavy bombing in London, they moved it to safety along with other portable important objects. The iconic objects spent the next 2 years in a station on the postal tube railway 50 feet below the ground at Holborn. The Rosetta Stone is on display in the Egyptian Sculpture Gallery on the ground floor of the British Museum. Visitors can view it for free, along with an incredible range of statues charting 3,000 years of ancient Egyptian history. There's also a replica of the Rosetta Stone in Enlightenment Room 1 that you can get even closer to and actually touch it. In some ways we did, 𝑋🡪📿. In some ways I think modern memes could be argued to be a type of hieroglyph. Hello, Zelios. Thank you for being here. So this is a translation of the Rosetta Stone. I may not read the whole thing, but it is kind of interesting. So I thought it might be kind of fun to share it. And if you're just joining, please hit like and please hit subscribe. I would be grateful. On the 24th day of the month, which corresponds to the 24th day of the 4th month of the season Pert, of the inhabitants of Egypt in the 23rd year of the reign of the child who hath risen as king upon the throne of his father, the Lord of the Shriners of 𝑋𝑴𝑏ET and 𝓴𝑡𝑐het, the mighty one of twofold strength, the stabilizer of two lands, the beautifier of Egypt, whose heart is perfect toward the gods, the Horus of gold, who maketh perfect the life of the Hamnet beings, the Lord of the 30-year festivals, the sovereign prince like Ra, the king of the south and north, the son of the sun, Ptolemy the ever-living, the beloved Ptah, the God who maketh himself manifest. Son of Ptolemy and Arsinoe, the father of loving gods, when Ptolemy, the son of Pyrrhides, was priest of Alexander, and the savior of the gods, and of the brother-loving gods, and the beneficent gods, and of the father-loving gods, and the God who maketh himself manifest, when Demetria, the daughter of Telemachus, was bearer of the prize of victory. His Majesty, King of the South and North, Ptolemy, the ever-living, beloved King, the Lord of Beauties, received the sovereignty from his father. So what is the moral of such a long story? What can we derive from all this? I'm low-key bored. I'm talking about the Rosetta Stone. I would say threefold. When Freemasons discuss stone in a metaphorical way, for example, rough ashlars, perfect ashlars, cornerstones, the stones of columns, actually down here, actually you can't see it well, maybe you can see it here. Oh, you can't really see it. The pillars of stone. Stone has been an incredibly important part of the relationship humanity has with the world and with the transference of knowledge. The Rosetta Stone is a manifest example of that relationship. So when people talk about, Freemasonry as being exclusively metaphorical, which it is, it does not mean that those metaphors don't have significant meaning in the real world and are not significantly applicable to the real world. In this case, the Rosetta Stone demonstrates to us that stone has been a friend of humanity for millennia. And one of the ways stone has been a friend of humanity is by the ability to transfer knowledge and wisdom for centuries, for thousands of years. So when Freemasons talk about the importance of stone in a metaphorical concept, we should take it seriously. I would say the relationship between humanity and stone has perhaps been the most important relationship that humanity has ever had. Second to humanity and water and the relationship between them, which, by the way, Freemasonry also has a significant relationship with. Maybe I am a different species, but I'm also very handsome. Todd the Hot Rod. I'm just going to call you Todd the Hot Rod. I am Heinz. I've been a Mason for 20 years. No, Zalesso, they were not. They were built by human beings. They were built by stonemasons, literally. They had to be built by stonemasons, right? If you work with stone, you are a stonemason. There's kind of not much else you can be. So Ptolemy is not King Solomon. Ptolemy was, there were, the very first Ptolemy, at least the very first Ptolemy I think we know of, was one of the generals who was under the leadership of Alexander the Great. After Alexander the Great died, Ptolemy became the ruler of Egypt, and he led Egypt, and then his descendants led Egypt, including this king who was, the subject of the Rosetta Stone. So I'm a member of 5 Masonic lodges, interestingly enough. But my mother lodge is Windsor Lodge 403, where I am a past master. Then I'm also a member of Border Cities Lodge number 554, where I'm the current master, Harmony 579. Then I'm also a member of Tranquility Lodge 2000 out of Texas, and Lodge Holy Land out of Israel. I liked Alexander. If I recall correctly, Ptolemy was in the Alexander movie, right? Who played Ptolemy in Alexander? In Oliver Stone's 2004 film Alexander, Ptolemy was played by Anthony Hopkins as an older narrator, Elliot Cowan as an adult general, and Robert Early as a young boy. In the Netflix docuseries Alexander, the Making of a God, the role was played by 𝑓𝋐🄦📿. That's interesting. I don't think of myself as a builder. I'm a journeyman. LM. I mean, journeyman is part of being a builder, right? There's a reason why professionals and tradesmen are called journeymen. It's because of the ability for them to travel. I guess I'm a Zionist. I don't know. I'm a believer in a two-state solution in Israel-Palestine, which I guess you could define as being a Zionist. Depends how you define it. Paul, I'm not a robot. At least I don't think I am. But maybe I'm a robot who's been programmed to not remember he's a robot, which is very possible. I guess you have to take my word for it. As someone who has watched a lot of Westworld and really likes Westworld, though, and Battlestar Galactica for that matter, I guess I'm not willing to completely discount the possibility. That's always been the case. That's why Freemasonry, right? Free to travel from job site to job site. So I guess you'd have to ask every Freemason what they think of Egypt and whether they think it's more advanced. I certainly do not. I think we are living in, by definition, the most advanced time ever, at least technologically. I don't care how impressive it is and was to build the pyramids, and it was very impressive. That's not a major concern to me if I'm not able to get myself a CT scan if I'm worried I have cancer. I could not, bring my cell phone back to ancient Egypt and get it to work. And if I could, everybody else would consider me some type of magical demon. So I don't think it's more advanced. Now, in terms of whether Freemasonry is attached to Egyptian stories, well, a couple of reasons why Freemasonry is attached to Egyptian stories. First, obviously, stonemasonry is an incredibly important part of ancient Egypt, and Freemasonry evolved from stonemasonry. Freemasonry is stonemasonry in a social setting. So, of course, by definition, we are going to care about and support stonemasons and ancient Egypt. The symbolism of stonemasonry, there may be no more famous stone structure in the world that's still standing than the pyramids. So that also is relevant. And then as Freemasonry was developing and as Freemasonry was growing, one of the things that you see very often is, and you still see it to this day, is a fascination with ancient Egypt and a love of ancient Egypt. That was very popular in, England in the late 16th, 17th, 18th centuries. And as a consequence of that, very often what you saw is Freemasons choosing to implement Egyptian symbolism into rituals, ceremony, and buildings. I don't think the human race has had several resets. Slob, I am not a 33rd degree. Monkey, I do make a good grilled cheese sandwich. I do not know what the royal poem is. Highs bean sausage. It'd be fun to check it out. There you go. Please hit like and subscribe, by the way. I'd be much obliged. I'm going to keep getting a bit more time. Wait to see who joins. Just hanging out now. That's what I wanted to talk about today was the Rosetta Stone because, amongst other reasons, it is Archaeology Month in Canada, particularly in Quebec. And perhaps when it comes to archaeological findings and stone, nothing is more important, nothing matters more than Then the Rosetta Stone, probably the most important stone I would say ever discovered, or one of the most important stones ever discovered. Hold on just one second. I would think of that as being the Regius poem. Royal poem, Egypt, 1390. The year 1390 marks... So ancient Egyptian love poem and statue of Akhenaten. This is from Facebook, Egypt Inside Out. I'll look into it. I'd love to learn more about it. It was an ancient Egyptian love poem and statue of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. Ancient Egypt is a land of sorcery. I mean, I don't believe in sorcery, obviously. I know it's famously, historically had a reputation for being a land of magicians, etc., etc. I would highly question that myself. Whether it is, quote unquote, the land of magicians or not, but that's kind of a separate story for another day. Why get so attached to not? Well, I mean, stone has been a pretty necessary part of humanity. Without stone, we would not have evolved to be where we are today. And that's literally true, right? If you look at all the things stone provided us. Stone tools. I think were the first tools made of stone or bone. The first confirmed manufactured tools were made of stone. So at the 𝓴𝓴𝓅𝓃 site in Kenya. Stone was man's first reach into permanence. Absolutely, 𝓴𝓅𝓃𝓃, and that's why I talked about it, because stone, I mean, nothing is permanent on big enough time scales, but for human purposes, stone is permanent in a way nothing else is, even our bodies, right? Stone will exist far longer than our bones. I mean, I know I have a head that looks like an egg. Please hit like and subscribe. I would be much obliged. And thank you for being here. Unfortunately, it's still a cloudy day, which means I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch the meteor shower tonight, but I promise you I'm going to try my best. The other thing is, with the recent YouTube changes to monetization, I'm probably going to start focusing more on my additional channel, because I'd like to try to get that monetized before February 1st, where the changes go into account, where I'll need to go from 4,000 to 8,000. It's not a stream, it's not a channel I do much, but I'd like to start doing more stuff on it. youtube.com/@CameronAdamson. Nira, I'm Cameron, I'm a Freemason. I started this channel to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. 60, please hit like and subscribe. I know I look like 𝓭𝓪𝓃𝓃. He was a very handsome fella. I mean, people saying I look ugly, that's perfectly fine. I can live with that. I've grown used to people calling me all sorts of names. Where am I from? I am from Canada. Born in Winnipeg, currently live in Windsor, Ontario. Greatest country in the world. I mean, I always will accept Nira super chats, YouTube memberships, gifts, things like that, Patreon membership. That is what helps me turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. Um, I did not know that, Tyrone. I was talking about the Rosetta Stone. We just finished talking about it. I'm going to leave links to information about it in the description to this video. Um, yes, Chris, that is very true. Every Shriner is a Freemason, but not every Freemason is a Shriner. I'll be crossing not all the trolls. I'll be crossing the bridge. That's pretty funny, actually. I'm definitely going to be trying to cross the bridge this weekend, I believe. Um, there was, if I recall correctly, over 4,000 people have crossed the bridge, like in the first day, if I recall correctly, which is really cool. Yeah, that's not how it works, Nira, but good effort anyways. So a Shriner is a Masonic appendant body, which very often it's engaged in a lot of community service work. It's an incredible organization. They do a lot of good. Um, are animes conveying? I don't think so. I've never watched an anime. I mean, maybe if the person who produces the anime is a Mason, they may put some Masonic stuff in there, but I've never heard of anything. I don't really watch anime, so I do not believe so. I mean, I'm sure, as you should. It was not easy having me as a son. Um, well, thank you, Nira. I appreciate that. I mean, I'd be look into it. I'd be curious to see. It wouldn't shock me. I don't really watch anime. I'm not a big fan of cartoons, as a general rule. Um, when I was a kid, I liked Thundercats. That's about as far as it went. From Beavis and Butthead, says ALS. I mean, I would say at its most basic level, an obelisk represents, again, the value of stone and stone structures, right? Obelisks are made of stone. Geometry, they also are very often the pillars on the junior and senior warden stations to represent when a lodge is at work or at play, or at refreshment, not at play, at work or at refreshment, right? Um, I have watched part of 33 and Beyond, done by Johnny Royal. Um, so I did watch the whole thing, but it's so long ago. I thought it was very well done, though. It also, an obelisk can sometimes represent a kind of another form of Jacob's ladder, almost like resurrection, unity between heaven and earth, anything going up, right? As well as a stone item on which you would test your plumb to make sure it's properly vertical. I mean, we are not trying to build a global hierarchy, so I cannot help you with that. You're kind of on your own there. We are trying to make our communities a better place. Global governance, that's a whole other can of tuna. Power, I'm definitely not a genius, but if you would like and subscribe, I would be much obliged and truly grateful. It is. Unfortunately, it's a very cloudy day, so I cannot see any solar eclipse, and that makes me sad. But I am still going to be streaming tonight, and I hope to stream at least some of the Perseid meteor shower. I'm keeping my fingers crossed I can do so. I agree, Zalios. I really like that as well. I think everybody's the most handsome and beautiful. I'm not going to play favorites because I want to have viewers from everywhere. That is true, but global hierarchies get a bit complicated. But I think distinctions among men, and this is a Masonic idea, are necessary to reward merit and ability. However, we want to make sure that we do not allow that, we do not allow those hierarchies used to reward merit and ability to cause us to forget that we are all brothers, we all share in the same hope, and partake in the same desires, and are from the same nature or stock. Black Adam, I am Canadian. Born in Winnipeg, currently live in Windsor. Black Adam, please hit like and subscribe. I do not. I think when you say predictions of World War III, you might be falling into the trap of the quote-unquote Albert Pike letter, which was baloney. It did not exist. It's a scam. Freemasons did not, Freemasons did not predict World War III, nor World War I, nor World War II, just for the record. I think we all share the same hope, ultimately. Now, it gets complicated because what is that hope, right? Like, not what is that hope, how do you interpret that hope? So, for example, I think if you asked everybody, do you want the world to be healthy? Everybody would hope that the world is healthy. The problem, some people may think that the way to create a healthy world is to get rid of all vaccines. I do not agree with that. Some people might think the way to be healthy is to, it's how you get to that ultimate hope. That's the issue. That's the problem. And ultimately, whether you hope that the world is a worse place, or you hope the world is a good place, but take actions that result in the world being a worse place, it really doesn't make a difference at a certain point, right? It's all the same thing. And I get that, and I understand that, but you still have to keep in mind, even if people have actions that are counter to their stated hopes, they may just not recognize the irony. Oh, 𝑓𝑡𝑀aple, so much of it. I've showed it off on this stream. I have so many Masonic items and jewelry. The core idea is brotherhood, strategy master. The core idea is it's worth spending time with other people. That is the core idea of Freemasonry. I'd say it's the core idea of almost every civic club and every civic group, by definition. Don't forget to join my Patreon so you can subscribe. And then you can vote in the poll I have going on at the moment. I mean, there's the old expression, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, if that's what you're referring to. Well, architecture is not inherently important to the idea of brotherhood, strategy master. Architecture is inherently important to Freemasonry because we evolved from stonemasons, and architecture was incredibly important to stonemasons, right? Without architecture and architectural designs and plans, there would not be any need for stonemasons. So we took that idea and we applied it to our we applied it in a metaphorical sense. Many ways, but not the way. There might very well be a the way. I have no doubt that's possible. But within Freemasonry, it's not our place to tell people what the way is. Just like it's not your place at a job or on an airplane. Time and a place for everything. I mean, I would say a combination of brotherhood, ethics, and civic engagement. It's about as much supporting the brotherhood as your community as a whole, right? Both are equally important. Concepts are not life. No, but concepts can help us understand life. I mean, life is a very complicated thing. It's sometimes very hard to understand. I mean, there's the biological processes of life, which maybe is not too hard to figure out, but then you have to go beyond just those biological concepts and ask yourself things like, what is the meaning of life? What does it mean to be here? What are my duties to being alive? And all of that stuff gets very complicated very quickly. Hello, VIP. You do learn secrets or private esoteric information. The reason for those is it creates bonds of brotherhood between past, present, and future generations of Freemasons. Is it possible there's no meaning? I mean, maybe. I don't know what you mean by that precisely. Like however you find meaning, you kind of find meaning, right? Like, I don't think there needs to be this idea of like meaning has to come from somewhere outside of ourselves. I think we can find the meaning within ourselves. Is people know what the way I think? I think people know what the way I think. 𝓴𝓁𝓿𝓋, I never tell people that. That's one of the things I choose to keep private. If you want to find out, you got to join Freemasonry yourself. I mean, strategy, brotherly love, relief, and truth. Virtue, mercy, charity, I would say is a major one. There is, I mean, I guess you'd have to ask someone who's Christian, light channel, if there's any significance to the fact he lived for 33 years. It might have just been a coincidence. I mean, I don't know if that number's relevant. It's kind of like there's 33 vertebrae in the human body. Sometimes a coincidence is just a coincidence. Well, I mean, I don't think individual choice is meaningless. I don't quite know what that means. Is the 33rd related to the serpent rising? No, I don't think so. Again, this weird obsession with the 33rd degree, I don't get why people love it so much and think it's so important. It drives me crazy. 33rd degree is not that important. It's a part of Freemasonry, it's a part of the Scottish Rite, but the highest degree in Freemasonry, once again, is the 3rd degree. Oh, the pineal gland, all that good jazz as well. I mean, I define energies. What you mean by that? I'm not one who believes in like energies in that sense. I don't believe. I mean, I like what are energies? Human beings have energies. Obviously, we have energy. But if you're talking about it in a metaphysical sense, then that is not something I believe. Um, will you smell the solar eclipse in your apples? I don't know what that even means. Farkles? I mean, I don't even know what the pineal gland actually is a literal. I think it's a literal gland in the brain. the idea that it's, eligible for this, the soul exists or whatever it is, or is the housing of the soul. I don't believe that's the case. Our bodies produce a biofield. I'm not sure if it does or not. I don't think that's the case. So don't believe, I'm not one to believe in mysticism, no. I know that might be shocking because a lot of people think that all Freemasons do is believe in mysticism, mystical ideas, but I do not. I'm try to stay as rational as I can, as often as I can. I think mysticism causes a lot of challenges and problems very often. Okay, I mean, I thought the pineal gland may have existed, but I wasn't quite sure what it was or what it literally did. I just remember reading about people saying that the pineal gland, like I think a philosopher, I think it would have been Descartes, I could be mistaken, believing that the soul was housed in the pineal gland. So, look into what? Mysticism? I mean, there's mysticism is a very broad, very, very broad expression, right? Like, I don't know precisely what to look into, other than to say I don't believe in the supernatural. So which idea is strategy master? The idea of esotericism or mysticism? I think it's because, unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, the term occult in modern times has been associated with kind of what occult used to mean is simply hidden information. Your bank account would be occult, right? Your your workplace secrets would be occult. Your Nana's family recipe for cookies would be occult. In the same way, Freemasonry has kind of its family secrets, which people labeled as occult, and then unfortunately, occult has now gone on to mean mysticism, mystical ideas, things like that. I don't know if the rational mind is perfect, but I think it's more perfect to be rational than irrational. I got a big forehead. I know. I've grown to accept it. I can, but you want to be very careful. I think science provides sufficient amounts of wonder as it is. I don't necessarily think we need the occult to add to it, Life is pretty wonderful even if without the occult. Just looking in mirrors. Just looking in mirrors. Just looking at flowers is incredible. Taking the time to look in the mirror and wonder that you're alive is pretty incredible. Because people like occult thinking for a variety of reasons, for better or worse. Paul, welcome. John Joseph, welcome. Please like and subscribe. I don't know, but I made it through. People can survive pretty much anything, which is both a really good thing and a really bad thing in some ways. I agree with that, White Knight. The universe is plenty magical in a figurative sense, not a literal sense, right? I don't believe literally the universe is magical, but when I look up at the stars in the night sky, it's very hard not to get a sense of magic and not to feel a sense of magic in those times. Thank you, John. Do you have any thoughts on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. I'm on Discord, Daniel. Are you on Discord? And if so, would you like to find me on Discord? What is your username? I'm trying to grow my Discord a little bit. I will admit I'm one of the worst when it comes to this stuff. Hold on just 1 second. Daniel, can you leave in the chat your Discord username? And I'll see if I can find you. I know I got the thumb head off Spy Kids. People keep telling me that. Oh, well, then there you go. His last name was White. It could have been. I mean, many people's grandfathers and fathers and uncles and dads and brothers are Freemasons. Magic is simply a science we do not yet fully understand. I mean, so, yeah, if we could build a time machine and we could go back in time and we were to show cavemen our cell phones, they would consider it to be magic, of course. But I think we need to be really careful that we don't take that too far and then assume anything is possible. That, I think, can be a very dangerous approach to take. It's how scammers usually get people to fall for scams, right? Because they'll just say anything's possible, and then you're kind of, you know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, who knows. Oh, hold on just 1 second. Well, because I think, unfortunately, people find it interesting, right? But I think, you know, I can understand why people find it interesting. I think, ultimately, though, it's very dangerous. DeLoreans aren't cheap. DeLoreans? I mean, DeLoreans would be considered magic as well, right? Who knows whether it's possible that we'll ever be able to travel in time. I think likely will not, at least not backwards. Now, forwards, I'm traveling through time right now, so are you. We know it's possible to travel forward in time. Backwards is a bigger question. We're going to give this another 10 minutes. Please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe, probably, maybe, who knows. I don't think that's true, Ben. I find that highly doubtful. I find that highly questionable. Well, that might be true. I mean, if you view time, 𝓴 as just simply a matter of coordinates, and that's all, then sure. It could just be that some parts of time are inaccessible to us and cannot be traveled to. But the past still exists, as does the future, and we're just kind of flipping through time, in a sense, which might be very true. Strategy, you get used to it. I don't know what 𝓴𝓴 is. We're going to give it a few more minutes. As always, if you're not done so yet, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. Maybe that is. I mean, I've had a lot of scientists on the channel, and I'm grateful for that. You know, I'm grateful for everybody I've had on the channel thus far. and great for everybody I've had on Medium as well, talking to me, scientists, doctors, about space exploration, about the Euclid space mission, the trip to the moon. I love all that stuff. So, nope, original Mean Girl, Freemasonry is not the dark arts. Whether you think Freemasonry is art or not is a different question. Like one of my favorite expressions about Freemasonry, right, is Freemasonry is art without an audience, or Freemasonry is art without audience, which I do think is true. But it's not the dark arts, that for sure. Oh, Britain. Well, many people have said worse things to me than that. Um, 90 votes. Wow, it started out really high and now 50-50. 50%, 52% say they will be, 48% say they won't. So to my knowledge, original Mean Girl, what the Catholic Church has said is that if you join Freemasonry, you are not allowed to take communion. Um, I would say it shows just a misunderstanding from the Catholic Church as to what Freemasonry is. Having said that, I've known many Catholic Freemasons. I don't believe ley lines exist. A ley line is, if I recall correctly, it is the belief that there are certain lines that are have some sort of supernatural power or importance. I don't believe that to be the case. Freemasonry is neither Protestant nor Catholic nor Muslim nor Jewish. It is not religious at all. It welcomes men of many faiths, backgrounds, and beliefs. I don't think I'd be an extremely powerful sorcerer, but thank you for being here nonetheless. I hope you're doing well. I did that, 𝑓🄧📿. I went to a Catholic church 2 weeks ago and completed clothing hampers for the people there. Well, Josh, that's very kind. I appreciate that. Once more, please take a moment, hit like and subscribe. I would be grateful. We are at, we'll probably go back to, ending this stream soon. It'll be a bit of a shorter stream, but it's going to be, a fun stream as well. I hope everybody here is doing well. As always, please take a moment, hit the like button and the subscribe button. And any thoughts you got on Freemasonry, let me know. Thank you, Zelios. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you consider becoming a Patreon member, a YouTube member. There are many ways to support the channel. And I would be much obliged. Sometimes it does feel that way. Sometimes I do very often feel like I'm tolerating questions. You kind of get used to it. If you want to be on YouTube, you got to kind of take the good with the bad. So I suppose that's true of life in general, right? So. Blue is an important color in Freemasonry. Blue Lodge, you hear that referred to often because blue represents kind of earth and common man and the common people. So that's where very often Blue Lodge comes from. We are at 38. We're 2 likes away. Let's see what we can do. As always, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, let me know. Don't forget, tonight I will be streaming at 1 a.m. and fingers crossed, I will be able to get some of that meteor shower going on. At least that's my hope. Fingers crossed. Because I think that'd be really, really cool. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Dean Strategy, welcome. Thank you for being here as well. We're at one like away from 40 likes. So let's see if we can get to 40 likes. If we can, that would be awesome. FD, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please take a moment. We got 40 likes. Look at that. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. It's been fun as always. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Don't forget, become a Patreon, become a YouTube member, and you can vote. And I'll talk to all of you very, very soon. Check out my social media account. You're going to see a lot of posts coming up today. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.